Hi, I'm Tammy Dahl. Thank you for joining me for my presentation on business and society. I've conducted interviews with two leaders, one from a profit organisation and one from a not-for-profit, and this presentation compares and contrasts the different approaches from both organisations and covers some key concepts. The leaders were first asked to identify their key stakeholders. A stakeholder is any person or group that can affect or be affected by an organisation's actions or decisions. Now, that definition makes it sound like almost anyone can be a stakeholder in any organisation. And in today's increasingly pluralistic society, where power is dispersed amongst many groups and people, businesses have more stakeholders today than ever before, and they're all capable of challenging them. The leaders identified primary and secondary stakeholders. Primary stakeholders have a direct stake in the organisation, and that's employees and customers, for example. And secondary have an indirect stake, but can be equally as influential, and they can consist of activist groups and competitors. The responses from both leaders were very similar, with the exception, of course, being shareholders for the profit organisation and not for the non-for-profit. The non-for-profit leader had more awareness of secondary stakeholders, like the media having a significant impact on the organisation. But when corporate success is measured by the amount of money a shareholder makes, does that mean a leader in a profit organisation must place shareholder needs before all other stakeholders? And when a business is not operating to make money, is their key stakeholder always the customer? So these managers need to decide who receives their attention and when. So a typology of stakeholders was developed based on three attributes: legitimacy, power, and urgency. Legitimacy referring to how valid or appropriate a stakeholder's claim to a stake is. Power refers to a stakeholder's ability to produce an effect. And the third attribute, urgency, is measured by the urgency of attention a stakeholder's claim on the business arouses. And as you can see, stakeholders can exhibit one or more of these attributes at any given time. And this diagram helps to illustrate that when a stakeholder has two or three attributes, they are considered more salient. The leaders were then asked to identify their stakeholders' priorities. And for both organisations, this kind of stakeholder analysis allows them to identify the three attributes within their stakeholder groups. And they can also identify existing and potential conflicting priorities. An example of competing priorities that stands out for most profit organisations is the customer wanting to save money and the shareholder wanting to make money. And here the answer lies in maintaining ethical standards. A profit organisation has responsibilities in relation to its stakeholders, mostly economic towards shareholders, and legal and ethical when it comes to their customers. And a profit manager must assess these responsibilities and strategize accordingly. In a not-for-profit agency providing public services, a manager must balance the competing priorities of customers and elected policymakers, where customers want quality service and policymakers are concerned with program outcomes. A not-for-profit leader has to balance legal and ethical responsibilities. This leads into the next question the leaders were asked to respond to, and that's the tensions that exist and how they deal with them. Both identified managing competing priorities, and as expected, the profit leader identified the balancing act between economic growth and meeting customer expectations. The not-for-profit leader identifies conflicts, expectations, and issues amongst all stakeholders. Her answer was broader and encompassed more stakeholders than the response from the profit leader, which supports the argument that profit organisations prioritise shareholders because their success is measured by the bottom line. When I put that to the profit leader, she conceded somewhat because yes, a business does exist to make money, of course, but she argued strongly that her organisation is about balance and that there is a recognised need to look after their customer, employees, and partners in the process. When I posed the thought to the not-for-profit leader, she did offer the view that it is difficult to measure success in her organisation because there are no balance sheets or profit and loss statements. She offered that no one stakeholder can be definitively or consistently prioritised over the others because in her not-for-profit organisation, success is managed by the satisfaction of her stakeholders. She advised that results of the employee census are taken just as seriously as the results from the customer satisfaction surveys. The final question posed to the leaders was whether they believed their business has a responsibility to help tackle societal issues. An absolute yes from the government service delivery organisation Centrelink. Heidi recognised the purpose and responsibility of the organisation is to address issues in society, and she stated that the government tries to set a benchmark for all other organisations in the way they conduct their business and handle their responsibilities towards employees and customers. From the profit organisation Visa, Liza did support that the organisation had corporate social responsibilities, and she identified in her example that Visa is careful to support community programs that align to their values and not just those that can be seen, or not those that could be seen as contradicting the services that they provide. She noted that as a good corporate citizen, Visa ensured they were an ethical operation, but they also could not address certain societal issues due to the adverse impact it could have on the needs of their other customers. Liza mentioned corporate social responsibility. This is the concept where companies decide voluntarily to contribute to a better society and a cleaner environment by incorporating societal and environmental concerns into their business operations. Both leaders in their responses have evidenced that their organisations engage effectively in corporate social responsibility. Visa choosing to as a good corporate citizen, and Centrelink doing so because societal issues are a core concern for their business. When the concept of shared value was discussed with both leaders, they were both familiar with the concept and recognised that it was being used in their organisations. Shared value focuses on the connections between societal and economic progress, and it's defined by competitiveness that can simultaneously advance social and economic conditions. Both leaders were able to identify programs in the workplace that were implemented with shared value in mind. Both organisations have early intervention programs for employees, regardless of whether the issue be physical or mental. The employee is supported through an early intervention program that clearly benefits the employee's health and has economic benefits for the organisation like productivity and retention. It is clear then that shared value is not just meant to be about the business and the creators of the concept. Porter and Kramer suggests that the government and non-profit organisations can leverage the power of market-based competition to address social problems. Corporations could also work with government and non-profit organisations to drive change and optimise returns, because there are big challenges that can't be addressed by one party.